2, June 20, 10 past 11 a.m. It looks like I might have a new bunkmate. Her name is Brittany, and she's a pain in the neck. Harry seems to be phoning around half of Florida, trying to find someone who will look after his daughter, but so far, no luck. Big surprise. When she came on board, Brittany gave her father a letter. It was from Brittany's mother, saying sorry about the short notice, but she had to rush off to France. She didn't say why, and thought it would be great for Brittany and her father to spend some time together. She also said that Harry's description of his new job sounded like an ideal learning experience for Brittany. All this was news to Brittany. She didn't know anything about Dolphin Universe. Her mother had just told her she was having a vacation in the Bahamas. Harry said that his ex-wife must think that he could sail their daughter to the Bahamas any time, no problem. But of course he can't. He's on Dolphin Dreamer to do a job like everyone else, and thought Dolphin Dreamer will be stopping off at the Bahamas. It won't be for quite a while yet. Then Mom and Dad said that if push came to shove, one more passenger wouldn't cause any hardship, and there was even a spare bunk. No hardship? Maybe not for them, but that spare bunk just happens to be in my cabin. But they're right, of course. It would be a disaster for Dolphin Universe if Harry had to pull out at the last minute to look after Brittany. Better to put up with some spoiled little rich girl for a few weeks than have to delay the whole journey. At least, I hope it will only be for a few weeks. Just heard Harry call to cast off. That's right, then. He must have found anyone to take Brittany. He must not have found anyone to take Brittany. We're off, and Brittany is coming with us. Jodie closed her diary, put it under her pillow, and rushed back on deck. The press and some of the crowd were still there, cheering and whistling. Jodie's school friends had said their final goodbyes and returned to school earlier, but Brittany's arrival had delayed the scheduled departure time. As Jodie glanced at Brittany, she felt a pang of guilt for not wanting her around. Brittany's mother had lied to her daughter and left her. That was awful. Jodie decided to go over and try to make Brittany feel more welcome. But as she got closer, Jodie could hear Brittany was still arguing with her father. Why can't you take me to the Bahamas now? Brittany asked Harry yet again, as Dolphin Dreamer motored gently towards the maze of the marina, towards the open sea. Cameron Tucker had taken over the helm to allow the captain a chance to talk to his daughter. Maddie and Craig were standing by, waiting for the order to hoist the sails. Jodie decided to keep out of the way. She had been looking forward to this day for so long, and all she wanted to do was enjoy it, but she couldn't help hearing every miserable word. Dr. McGrath said your schedule is flexible. You're not expected down in Florida Keys for a week, or even more. Why can't we go to the Bahamas right now? Please, Daddy, please. Brittany's voice was sweet and wheedling. Brittany, what would be the point of that? Your mother isn't there, and I can't leave the boat and stay with you. I have a job to do, whatever you or your mother may think, her father replied. He was fidgeting and kept looking away, obviously deep, uncomfortable. I can stay in a hotel. I've got my own credit card, you know. Mommy wouldn't mind. I can look after myself, Brittany said, proudly tossing back her long fair hair as she said it. Don't be ridiculous, Harry snapped. You're only 13. He took a deep breath, then spoke more calmly. And I know your mother feels the same. If she thought you could look after yourself, she wouldn't have left you with me. I wish she hadn't, Brittany cried. So do we all, Jodie thought. She gripped the side rail and stared at a passing boat being mobbed by a flock of seagulls. Harry kept his temper. He didn't say what Jody was sure he was thinking, that he agreed with his daughter too. Instead, he spoke quietly, trying to calm her. I only wish your mother had been honest with both of us when. Mommy was honest with me, Brittany interrupted. She always told the truth. You're the liar. You could take me to the Bahamas. You could. And stay with me there. I don't know why you won't. You just don't want to. You've always been horrible to me. Jody thought she sounded near to tears. Brittany, her father sounded concerned now. Leave me alone. With all that finally shouted word, Brittany vanished below decks. Her father stood there for a few seconds, then turned to walk slowly in Jody's direction. Jody saw that the captain, usually so calm and certain, looked upset. Harry spotted her then, and this weather-beaten face went a shade redder. Did you hear all that? He sighed. Jody blushed, too, and nodded. I hope she'll settle down, Harry said. Of course it's hard for her. She must be feeling let down by her mother. But most kids would love a chance to spend the summer sailing on Dolphin Dreamer. Don't you think so? He asked anxiously. I can't think of anything better, Jody said honestly. He nodded, still uncertain. I'd always hoped my daughter would like sailing. I wanted to teach her when she was younger, but her mother could never see the point of it. He sighed again, shook his head and moved away. Jody went to join her brothers, who were leaning over the side, too busy talking to each other to have noticed the argument. What are you looking at? She asked. Jellyfish, they both shouted. Jody looked down into the frothy water where a Portuguese man of war floated like a pink-crested football. 3 other smaller ones clustered nearby. She was suddenly aware of silence. The drone of the engine has stopped. Ready? Called Cam. With a flap and a sound like a sudden deep breath, the sails caught the wind and filled. They were sailing. Jody listened to the slap of the waves against the side of the boat and felt the sun heat on her bare arms. She leaned out into the wind, breathing in fresh, salty tang of the air, and narrowed her eyes against the sun's glare. The marina and the traffic around it were receding, and already the land seemed far away. Jody felt as if she had entered another world where petty problems like Brittany's bad temper didn't matter. She sighed deeply. The ocean was working its magic. If Brittany would come out instead of lurking below, she would feel it too. She was bound to cheer up and act better, Jody thought optimistically. She looked around at the others. Harry had taken over at the helm, looking more relaxed in his role as captain than he had as Brittany's father. Jody's own father was discussing something with Maddie, while Cam, who stood nearby, was gazing at her with a wistful expression on his face. Gina was rubbing sunscreen onto Sean's freckled face, while Jimmy waited his turn. The twins were red-headed and fair-skinned like their father, which meant they had to take extra care in the sun. Jody thought she was lucky to have inherited her mother's Mediterranean complexion, which tanned instead of burned. Everyone was on deck except Mei Ling, Brittany, and Dr. Jefferson Taylor. Jody still hadn't met their new crew member. In the uproar surroundings Brittany's unexpected arrival, she had forgotten all about him. She wondered where he was. Then, just then, like an answer to her question, a pinkish, balding headed poked out of the hold, reminding her of a turtle coming out of its shell. After a cautious look around, the owner of the head emerged onto the deck. He was middle-aged and overweight, puffing a little, as if even pulling himself up the few steps was more exercise than he was used to. Dark glasses hid his eyes, and he was smartly dressed in a navy blue short-sleeved shirt, white trousers, and expensive deck shoes. "Dr. Taylor," Gina called. "Please come and join us. Can I offer you some sunscreen?" Jefferson Taylor gazed around and touched the top of his bare head. "I can tell that I'll need a hat." "Yes, a hat is a good idea if you're going to be in the sun for very long, Gina replied. "But you could sit there by Jody in the shade. I don't think you've met my children yet, have you?" "That's my daughter Jody, and these two are Sean and Jimmy." Dr. Taylor nodded rather stiffly. "Pleased to meet you, Jody and, boys." "I'll bet you can't tell us apart," crowded Jimmy. "I don't approve of betting," Dr. Taylor said rather primly. "However, I'm a scientist, and the essence of science is observation." He whipped off his dark glasses, revealing a pair of brown eyes with surprisingly long, thick lashes. He thrust his head forward, right into the twins' faces, making Sean flinch, although Jimmy held his ground and stared back. Dr. Taylor just looked, silent and unblinking, for several long seconds. "As I thought," he said. "There are two distinct differences in the freckle pattern. Anyone who cared to look closely could tell you apart. Easy to miss at a distance, of course. I suspect behavioral differences would be of more practical use." "What does that mean?" demanded Jimmy. "In this case, I would guess that you, Sean, are slightly more cautious, and you, Jimmy, are the troublemaker." Dr. Taylor emphasized his words by pointing his stubby forefinger. Gina burst out laughing. "You've got that one right." Dr. Taylor smiled, replaced his dark glasses, and turned away. "Of course. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to get my hat." The boys stared after him, mouths open. Jody couldn't hold it back any longer and began to giggle uncontrollably. "Differences in the freckle pattern," Gina murmured, and then she began to laugh again. "Maybe we should call them Spotty and Splotch." She leaned against Jody, and they both giggled hysterically as the two boys scowled. Jody leaned over the side of the boat and gazed at the seemingly endless expanse of flat blue water. Almost 2 hours had gone by. They were all out to sea, and she had yet to see a single dolphin. She felt bored and disappointed. It just didn't seem possible. More often than not, when she'd gone sailing with her parents, she'd seen dolphins. Sometimes it was just a leaping figure in the distance, but often they would swim right up to the boat. They weren't shy creatures, and there were lots of them in the coastal waters around Florida, where they were now. So where are they all? You know what they say about a watched pot? Jody turned to find her mother smiling at her sympathetically. Jody sighed. "They say it never boils, but that's not true. The water will boil when it gets hot enough, no matter how many people are watching."